So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create an album cover. Hi guys, bonjour, hola, my name is Trish. If you're new on this channel, welcome. We are so glad to have you join the community of learners. So without further ado, let's jump right into this tutorial. So the first thing you need to know is the CD size. So you want to go to File, New, and you want your dimensions to be in pixels, and our width is going to be 1600 and our height will also be 1600. It's going to be a square and resolution is 300. We're going to click on create. You want to go ahead and begin to bring in your background image. We're going to go to our folder and we are going to drag this image in. So if you're new and you don't know how to bring in an image, all you have to do is drag and drop the image into Photoshop and it will show up right there. Now we want to go ahead and take off the background of our subject. So we are going to click on our layer. Then you want to go to your property. Now we are looking for the quick action command. If you don't see that, you need to click on convert to layers. Photoshop will ask you if you want to apply the smart object layer. We want to say yes. Now when you click on quick action, you need to click on it twice. It will activate remove background. So you click on it once and Photoshop will take off the background for you. Now I know you are going to say that the hair area is not perfect and we need to clean it up. Yes, but for the purposes of the technique I'm going to show you, you really don't have to spend time refining the hair. Now I am using Photoshop 2021. If you have Photoshop 2021 and 2020, you have the option of using the quick action command. But if you don't, then to take off the background, you need to use your quick selection tool, select subject, and Photoshop will also select the subject. And you can click on layer mask to cut out or hide the background for you. We want to go ahead, click on our move tool, and we want to scale our subject. So I'm going to zoom out, holding down my options on my Mac, and I'm going to zoom in like that. I'm going to take it back a little so she's right in the center. I'm going to move her up just like so. I'm going to double click to accept it. Now we want to go back to our folder and we want to drag in this image and I'm going to set it right on top. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to click on this image, make a duplicate. So Command J, make a duplicate. I'm going to hide this one. So I'm going to go to my blending options and I'm going to choose multiply and I'm going to zoom in. So this is what we have so far. Now I want to hide a bit of the hair and all of that. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to hold down my command, make a selection of my layer mask. I'm going to click on my image and press Command C to make a copy. I'm going to add a new layer by clicking on the plus icon and I'm going to press Command V to paste it. Now if I turn this off, you notice that this layer doesn't have the layer mask. So this is what we are going to work with. Now I'm going to go ahead and scale this down a little so we have it somewhere like so. I want to sort of blur hair into the background. So I'm going to add a layer mask, click on the layer mask icon. Now pick your brush, make sure that your foreground is black. Black hides, white reveals when dealing with layer mask. So we are going to use our brush to paint over to hide some areas of our subject. So I'm going to increase my brush head since it's small. I'm going to use my right bracket to increase it. And the other thing you need to check is that you need to go under the brush options. Make sure your hardness is at 0. Now, if we begin to brush, you realize that we are basically blending in our subject with our foreground. And we're going to go ahead and zoom in. And then I'm going to decrease my brush head. And we are going to just blend this area in like so. It doesn't have to be perfect. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to select my layer for my subject and bring her above so she is on top. Now I'm going to make another copy. I'm going to click on my image, Command J to make another copy. I like the way it's looking. Now we're going to rotate this one so we begin to create different effects for our background. So I have something like this and I'm going to scale it in a little. I'm going to pick up my eraser and I'm going to click on my image to rasterize it. I'm going to increase my brush head and I'm just going to brush over this area like so. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this image. I'm going to click on it and turn it into a rasterized image and I'm going to paint over that area as well. So we basically are trying to get rid of the white background on that watercolor image. And I'm going to click on this one and blur this area in as well. Now we want to go ahead and add a background color. So instead of using this, which is the default that came in once we created a canvas, we're going to delete that. And we are going to click on our adjustment and choose a solid color. Now we want to choose almost like a cyan color. I'm going to choose something like this. I'm actually going to type in A4CDF5. So we have this color. Now I'm going to go back and click on our watercolor and change the blend mode from multiply to normal. So we have this effect. I'm going to click on the other one and I'm going to go ahead and do the same. So we have this sort of effect that is going on. I'm going to click on this image and then I'm going to make sure that I blend it in with the background. So nothing else shows except the watercolor effect. So we have something like this. I'm going to go ahead and add one more. So I'm going to click on the bottom layer and I'm going to press Command J to make another copy. Now I'm going to increase this one. So we have different layers of the watercolor effect on our subject. So with this all set, we want to go ahead and add a black and white adjustment layer to our image. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my image and I'm going to go to my adjustment and I'm going to choose black and white. So you realize that the black and white effect is now applied to everything because it's on top of the image layer as well as the watercolor image. So what I'm going to do is I want to clip it only to my image. So to do that, we're going to hold down options and clip that to my image. So we have something like this. Now I'm going to click back on my subject layer and I'm going to pick back up my brush, making sure my layer mask is activated, and I'm going to brush this area just so I have a little bit more of my subject hidden. So we want to go ahead and click on our black and white adjustment. I want to take it down a little so we have almost like a bit of the color of our subject sort of bleeding through, so we don't entirely have a black and white image, but playfully adding a bit of a color effect. Now I want to go ahead and click on this image, which is right below my subject, and I'm going to add an adjustment, which is the black and white, and I'm going to clip that. So I'm going to hold down options and clip that. So now you notice that I have a very fun effect going on. So one of the watercolor image is now black and white, and we have a very playful layering of the other two beneath it. So with this all set, we can go ahead now and begin to add our text. So I'm going to pick my type tool, and I'm going to flip my foreground to white, and I'm going to make sure that I select the font that says Fat Frank, and I'm going to type in the word friend. I don't need this image anymore, so we are going to go ahead and delete it. Now we want to add a little bit of a shadow effect. So I'm going to double click on my image, add a drop shadow. It's a bit too much, so we're going to click on the options and reduce our shadow effect. So we have something like this. You can play with it and do whatever you want. Like I always say, I am going to take down the opacity a little so we have the shadow effect, but it's not too much. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So you can go ahead, click on your font. You can increase it a little by holding one end of your transform. If you don't see your transform activated, you need to click on Command T or Control T if you are on Windows. And if you are on the Mac, is Command T to activate your transform. We want to go ahead and add a few more text. So I'm going to click on my type tool, and I'm going to click on my font, my foreground color, and I'm going to pick almost something in the range of what we already have in our background, but I'm going to go more for the rich tones, almost close to the red, purple-ish color. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to change my font to Breathe In Personal Use. I'm going to click and type in Faithful. And I'm going to use my Move tool, and I'm going to pull this down, and I'm just going to scale it like that. And I'm going to double click on it to select it. Now, I don't want all my font in caps. I only want the first alphabet. So I'm going to click on the double T to deactivate the caps option. And I'm going to just go ahead and scale this. And I'm going to move this down and set it right there. I'm going to go ahead and scale it a little bit more like that. And I'm going to go ahead and rescale this a little so I have something like that. Now I want to increase the F. So I want to make my first alphabet bigger. So I'm going to go ahead, click on my type tool, highlight that, and I'm going to increase that to, let's say, 150, and maybe that is too much, so maybe 120, enter, and that is fairly good. Now I want to close up the gap, so I'm going to click on my VA to close it up. Now notice that I didn't have to create 2 layers to do that, so you can use the same concept to achieve that look. Now I can go ahead and scale this down a little if I feel she is too big. I think so. I want to take it down a little. So we have something like this. I'm going to double click on the font, and I want a little bit more rich tone. So something like this is perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. So we have this look. Now I want to go ahead and add new single and also the artist names. I'm going to click on my type tool, click anywhere, and obviously it's too big. So we're going to reduce our font to 11, and I'm going to change my font back to the Fat Frank, and I'm going to type in new single, and I'm going to highlight, click on my foreground and choose this color, and we want to go ahead and space it out a little like that. Now I'm going to click and space it out. I'm just going to space out by going to the VA, and I can space it out just a little. Now I'm going to select that and set that right here. Now I'm going to pick my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to click to change my foreground, click on the arrow to reverse so I have my white on top, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle around my text, and I'm going to click below my text, and I'm going to add a new layer with my paint bucket. I'm going to change my gradient to the paint bucket, fill that in, Command D to deselect. So now we have this. We want to go ahead and add the artist name. Pick up your type tool once again, and I'm going to click on my foreground, click anywhere with your eyedropper to choose the same color. Now I'm going to type in her name. I'm going to go ahead and choose a basic font. So I'm just going to go with the Married Pro, and I'm going to highlight and type in her name. Now I'm going to select and set that right here. I'm going to scale it down a little, double click to accept. Now we want to space it out. So I'm going to do something like this, and I'm going to go ahead and increase the font a little, and we're going to set it right here in the middle. So we're going to go to our folder, and we are going to go ahead and drag these three in. I'm going to double click to accept all three. I'm going to turn this off, turn that off. Well, we're going to go ahead and scale this down like that. And I'm going to set it right here for now. I'm going to double click to accept. Now we're going to go ahead and turn on the other one, which basically comes with the background. Now we can easily use our quick action, click to convert, yes, and then with our quick action we can just remove the background, and we can go ahead and also scale this down and set that next to the other icon. Now we want to go up and also turn on the last one and just scale it because this doesn't have any background. We're going to set it right there. Now we want to go ahead and zoom in to these three. We want to make sure that they are all aligned and they all are the same size. So we're going to scale this down a little, and I'm going to do the same thing with this. This looks like the same size, so I'm going to move it up a little. So with all of these three, I'm going to hold down my shift, select all three, and we're going to move it down. We're going to move it down and set it right there, and we're going to go ahead and scale it. I'm going to zoom in so we can see it, and I'm going to set it right there. I'm going to double click to accept. Now we want to go ahead and add a little bit of a background to all of these icons. So I'm going to click on my new single, which is the last layer before those icons, and we are going to click on our shapes. We want to choose our rectangle, and we are going to just draw a rectangle like that. Now, it doesn't have any color because the fill color right now is nothing. So we're going to click on our fill color, and we can either choose this color, or if you want to match a particular color, pick your color picker, will come up and you can just choose any color, click OK, and there you have it. Now we want to go ahead and round the edges of this rectangle. So with Photoshop 2020 and Photoshop 2021, you can easily drag these little round dots and it will create your rounded edges for you. If you're on the older one, there are these options that are available with the older one, so you can set all your corners. So that is the difference. Now I'm going to click on these three and just reposition them. Now I can hold down my shift and scale this so that it lines up on top and bottom, having the same size. Now I want to go ahead and reduce the opacity. So we have something like this. I'm going to zoom out, and this is it. Sometimes other people like to add more stuff. You can go ahead and do that, like the recording studio where this was done. So it all depends on how much information you want to add, but I like to keep it to the minimal. You just want your audience to know exactly what you want to tell them. Keeping things simple is much better. To me, less is more. So with this said, you can finish off your final image by clicking on your top layer, hold down Shift Option Command E to make one file. Now we can go to our filter, go to camera raw. Now we can increase the contrast if we want. You notice that it adds some punch to our image, and we can increase the color vibrance if we want. We can increase the saturation if we want, and I'm just going to click OK. So you can see that this is the before and this is the after. So if you want the more muted version, you can go with this one, but if you want a little bit of a punch, you can go with this, or you can have a bridge between the two. And what do I mean by that? You can actually reduce the opacity of this one, so you have a bit of it bleeding into the background. So you basically have a combination of the two, which gives it a very good look. Now, guys, I know that some of you are hoping that I will do a tutorial on the CD cover, but I have already done a tutorial for that. So I'm also going to put a link below on how to design the CD cover as well as the back. So guys, this is it. So if you found this very valuable, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also share this on your social media platform so that others can also see and benefit just like you are. So till next time, guys, please be safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.